Welcome back, everybody. This is the 3D Printer Chat Show, the 3D Printing Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Garrett, and today I've got the Modern Inventor, Andy Tran. What does he invent? Well, one of the things he's invented is the hugest, most massive 3D printer I have ever seen, and it's absolutely unique. You've not seen anything like this. How are you doing, Andy?
Hey, I'm doing excellent. Glad to be on the show, Chris. Thanks for having me.
You're in a very different time zone to me, right? So is it afternoon for you?
Yeah, it's 2 p.m. here, Florida.
So you've got sunshine. Yeah. Well, I'm up in the mountains, up in Calgary. So hopefully the connection will hold and we get a good connection, because I really want to hear about your inventions. A lot of people call themselves inventors, but you really are one, right?
I believe so. That's it's good for branding. It's good for communicating. All the things that I guess that I do. Ties it all together.
So let's talk about what you do. A lot of people will be curious how you got into this, but I want to start at the end, really, and say you've actually got products that you've invented. You do consulting for other companies. And a couple of things that you've invented are really, really cool that I've seen. One of which is the printer I mentioned earlier. We'll get into that. And the other is a cup holder for a Tesla.
Correct. So I'm on Instagram one day. I'm in Naples, Florida. It's a very nice area of Florida, and there's this yellow Lamborghini Aventador. And I go ahead and take a picture of this car and post it on Instagram, like, hey, this is really cool. And the owner of that car messages me and says, hey, it looks like you're new in town. You work with some product design. I have a few ideas. Let's link up sometime. So I meet up with a guy one day, and we talk about our project. And he says, my son thought of an idea. It's for a cup holder for the Tesla. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's see what the limitations of a Tesla are. And aside from going 0 to 60 in very short amount of time, if you had passengers in the rear seat, it's not very comfortable because there's no utility in the back. So we came up with a design. We CAD designed it, went to manufacturing, sold it online, and it's one of the projects that we worked on. Consumer products. There's lots of other interesting ideas that small companies or organizations would come to us with, and we just try to help them solve problems.
I think that's awesome because, well, first of all, I want a Tesla, and I can't believe they don't have cup holders. But secondly, it looks beautiful. It's not just like, you've thrown something up on Thingiverse and printed it on your MakerBot. It's actually, it looks designed. It looks like it was meant to be in there. So what is your process? I mean, you said how you came up with the idea, but what is your process for taking that idea into production?
Sure. So some of the processes I use, I like to look at things in a very simplistic way. And when it comes to design and creating something, personally, I never learned a formal design, CAD design. So my knowledge on designing using software is very limited. I'm limited to, curves and lines and squares and circles. So I'm always seeking the most fluid, seamless shape possible, and just seeking inspiration from things around me. The design looks like an hourglass. It literally started off as a rectangle, and I added a nice curvature, on the inside, nice like a radius, a very large radius, and it worked, and symmetry is also important as well. But I've also been designing with asymmetrical shapes, and it just opens up a whole new world. Going back to the design part, I never had formal design training. So my process, the logic, I'm thinking of the easiest way to create something. Typically flat shapes, you know, simple lines. And when that translates to a product, it's so simplistic, almost you can't take away from it. So it gives it this like timeless look, and it has a very seamless, style to it. And I'm really happy that people have mentioned also, just like yourself, that it looks like it belongs there, and I believe it so too. It looks like it belongs there, and that surprises me sometimes as well.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sure Tesla's
yeah,
looking at it as if to say, "Don't, we should have had that."
probably, yeah. Hopefully one day Elon hits me up and says, "Andy, that's a cool cup holder, man. What else you got?"
Yeah,
So I'm waiting for that day,
come to Los Angeles. So,
pretty much.
you mentioned you weren't formally trained. What software do you use now for your 3D design?
Sure. So, I've started off with SketchUp. So I upgraded to SketchUp Pro. That's like my go-to software to design, simple mock-ups, shapes, and whatnot. And taking the models from SketchUp, I take it, translate it to Fusion 360. So that's kind of been my new go-to
Yeah.
to go more advanced and visualize and share files. So I really like those two products.
So you use Fusion for the rendering, do you?
Yeah, using Fusion for the rendering, any more advanced, exporting for other companies to make them and things.
Yeah.
I like Fusion for that.
Cool. So when you've got your design, you've got it how you want it in SketchUp, and you might have put it into Fusion 360. What is your next step then? Do you do multiple iterations on your 3D printer?
Yeah, so when I was working with the 3D printing, um, yes, I used to print out components and things. And I love plastic. Plastic's great, but I did see some limitations when working with plastic, especially when it came to like automotive components. In the long run,
Yeah.
the heat doesn't in Florida is it doesn't do the
Yeah.
plastic doesn't do too well.
Is that how you got into CNC?
Yes. So I met a partner when we were building the Millebot, which is our a large 3D printer slash CNC machine. Um, I see where I was going with this. The 3D printing, yeah, there were limitations, and getting into CNC, I realized that by making components with aluminum, combining them with plastic, I would get the best type of prototype possible, and not being limited to just one discipline by combining both of them, the additive stuff and the subtractive stuff in a kind of a whole design philosophy, right?
Yeah.
And also keeping it as flat as possible. So whenever I'm thinking about creating a product, I'm thinking of, in a way, flat design, something that can be easily created, which means it can be easily shipped. It's the material cost is less, and you can always fold these items and combine them with 90-degree angles and stuff to create your three-dimensional shapes. So just really looking at design in a whole another world, another way. Organic design is great, but sometimes when you think a little bit further, thinking about the flat design and combining those flat surfaces, you can create real products that have just a different style to it, and then that's where we're going with the Millebot.
Yeah, awesome. So before we get into the Millibot, do you have a CNC machine outside of that? Do you have a desktop machine? Do you have a workshop?
Say that again.
Do you have your own CNC machine outside of the Millibot, like a desktop machine or a workshop?
Yes, we do. So we have two machines right now. One is these are built by my partner and I. It's a 7-foot by 13-foot build. It's a large flat bed, kind of like a CNC type router. The other machine we work with is a 5x5 machine that was actually created by that larger machine.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, we use our machines to create parts for the next machine.
So you're not using like aluminium extrusion, you're CNCing your machine yourself?
It's a combination of both. Some of the components we use the extrusions as a base, and then we just build upon that, creating brackets, 1/2 inch aluminum, 3/4 inch aluminum, even to some PVC components for lightweight, non-load bearing parts, finishing plates and whatnot. We like to design, uh, again, just very flat surfaces, but add flair to it, so it
Yeah.
doesn't even look like it's a sheet material anymore.
Yeah. So you're actually producing things that are basically finished products. So can you tell us about the camera grip that you're actually selling right now?
Sure. So, with this giant machine that we've built, one of the toughest problems was finding what application, where does it fit in the marketplace, who's going to use it. So, one of the ideas that came up, and this actually led me to the whole 3D printing thing to begin with. I was graduating from college. I had a passion for photography, and I had a passion for guns, firearms.
Yeah.
So combining my
Because
two
Florida.
hobbies together, oh, exactly, lax gun laws and lots of gun manufacturers down here, by the way. So by combining my two hobbies together, I came up with a stabilizer, and it's like a rear stock on a rifle, and that hooks up to your camera. And this was back in 2010. I made the first prototype, Chris, and I realized after making that I'd have zero way of making a lot of these. I didn't have the money to go to China, make a mold, and deal with all these problems that most people had whenever they had a great idea. So I actually scrapped the idea, and it wasn't until actually earlier this year in February, around like Valentine's Day, I realized that my machine, my Millebot, could be the same machine to make my product, that shelf dream.
Yeah.
And once I realized that, 4 months later, we produced it and got it on Amazon Prime.
That's awesome.
So
I've been following that as well on your Instagram, and that it looks it looks so professional though. It's like, if you think about the listeners to this show, I just did an episode about going onto Etsy. You've gone all the way to mass manufacturing, basically something that can be sold on Amazon. So that's amazing.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and that's really the business model we want to create, by empowering people with the right tools. They can take a sheet of material that's $200 and convert that into thousands of dollars of retail products.
Yeah.
Just by having the tools.
Yeah. And the idea and the design, but yeah, having the tools is super important. So
right.
We've teased enough. Let's talk about the Millebot, because it is amazing. And to give you some background, we've seen big printers before, big in quotes, because Millebot is huge, and they tend to be deltas. This is a huge Cartesian printer in a shipping container. Can you tell us about that?
All right. So I'm on the way home from a friend's house. It's late. It's probably like midnight. I'm driving home, obsessed over, 3D printing, designing, right? Part of the entrepreneur life hashtag. I think about this other obsession, passion of mine, and it's the shipping container. It's like, it's modular. People are making offices, homes,
Yeah.
Little workstations. They're like retrofitting these things, and it's just so cool. They're stackable. So I'm driving home on the road, and 3D printing and shipping container, both ideas emerged at the same time. And when that happened, those ideas just literally mashed together, and they just fit together so well. And I literally stopped the car, Chris. I stopped the car, and I was like, holy crap, this is huge, like literally huge. And, I realized, because one of the challenges that I faced early in, 2011, building my first aluminum extrusion 3D printer, was, the frame itself, just to keep everything 90 degrees and cutting it and everything, assembling it, that was like more than half the battle. The rest of the components, as long as you had everything straight, was relatively easy, wiring and all that, aside from that. But, the shipping container housing, like was already a turnkey, basically a turnkey solution. We could build and equip the container with our machine, and now we have something that can be transported around the world to create products and do 3D printing. You know, you can connect it with the Internet of Things and remote into it, send it files, vice versa. It could also be a Wi-Fi hotspot. So basically, you have this container, and I like to think of it as a standardized manufacturing system.
Yeah.
You know, if you think of like a unit of measurement, like you have a meter, or you have a kilometer, you know, milli, the name itself is a prefix for thousand in Latin. When you think of like millimeter, that's a measurement. So when you think of Millebot, think of a standard unit of production.
Yeah.
Big scale, right? So,
and you can deliver this to a company's car park, basically, and then they've got a manufacturing process and machinery all set up. It basically gets delivered to them. Their manufacturing gets delivered to their company.
absolutely. Yeah, and you know, for a lot of the companies out there who don't have room to expand, maybe they've already tapped out their production capacity under the roof, but they need more, you know, production capabilities, and they don't want to move their operations. You know, one great solution would be to have Millibot delivered to you, and you can offset your manufacturing for a project or whatnot in your parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking also of like pop-up manufacture. You know, they've got a need for the next few months to prototype something. You deliver one of these guys, and basically they don't have to outsource. They can just outsource to the car park.
Correct, correct. Yeah, and by doing so, we can save we can save companies a lot of time, a lot of energy, you know, just by delivering a system it's optimized for transport. Of course, you could leave it outdoors, and it will process a full sheet of material with no modifications.
Yeah, and that transport thing, it's something people don't think about, but the problem has been solved with shipping containers. We know how to ship those around. We know how to ship them by truck and by sea. So it's a solved problem just inherent in the design. I think that's really clever.
Thank you.
So what are the specs of the Millibot? Just to blow people's minds. Bearing in mind, my biggest printer is 500 millimeters by 500 millimeters.
Okay. Cool. So the specs on a Millibot. Right now, we are on our second machine. It's we debuted last year with the Millibot LE, which is our we call it our light duty machine. It's designed for 3D printing, also combining with hybrid technologies. There's a CNC spindle on there as well too, and its original purpose was to create molds for the automotive industry, printing with clay.
Yeah.
And then coming back in with a spindle to clean it up. So in essence, you'll have a 5 foot by 5 foot by 11 foot long milled part.
Cool.
That's the baseline size. So you're looking, you know, with our new HD machine, that's going to have a 5 foot by 5 foot by about 11 foot build. That's in our 20 foot container. Now for our 40 foot systems, that's probably going to double in terms of the y axis.
Yeah.
So you're looking at about 20 feet plus or minus, you know, of length.
So you can essentially CNC a Formula One car or more.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Formula E for sure. Yeah, and then, you know, we have a passion for automotives, cars, and whatnot. I mean that's, you know, the Millie. It's just I see it as the ultimate tool to have. You know, it's the ultimate tool to have access to, because you can make things, you can download files, you can have someone else design it, and, you know, just make things in-house, you know, down the street from you.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. So even though you've got CNC on there and you've got a clay extruder, because clay is still used a lot in the automotive industry, does it still do plastic FDM printing?
Yes, it does.
Is it like a
Yep.
4 millimeter nozzle or something, or 4 centimeter?
Yeah, so basically, our system is very compatible with other types of tool heads. So if you would imagine a standardized three-axis platform, that would be what the Millebot HD is. It's compatible with a variety of tool heads, and if you're doing additive manufacturing, then we can take your favorite 3D extruder head, if it's a volcano head, if it's a uh, any other type of head, pellet extruder head, custom, you know, mounted on the machine,
Yeah.
and away you go.
So do you have a laser head for like laser engraving?
Yes, we do. Actually, one of the machines we have right now in our studio has a 120-watt laser tube,
Nice.
and
So that could do
that
metal.
thing, yeah, it does like light metal. If we really wanted to get into metal, like steels and maybe some other materials, we have added a plasma head on,
Nice.
and also we are in talks with a company called SPI Lasers, and they make a really cool fiber laser. So we're already kind of looking at all these different options, going in the future, combining with our three-axis platform.
Maybe even a water
Um,
jet?
Water jet will come as well too, and you know what? These are all the specialty machines, and we can build with the Millibot platform, simply because we have the real estate to house everything in the box
Yeah.
and be able to transport that to you.
And you have that three-axis capability. So the axes are already there. It's the head change.
Correct. Yep. And we're looking at 5 axes in the future, so maybe sometime next year, I would love to maybe come back on and show
Yeah.
you a 5 axis, in operation.
So it's that rotation
Also,
and like pitch and yaw, basically.
correct. Yeah, and that's gonna like basically open up the doors to, I mean, anything. You're talking
Yeah.
aerospace to medical parts. Very
Yeah.
organic shapes can be done. Um, the possibilities are endless, and there are there are options for combining multiple millis together in tandem
Mm.
to
For like a
create.
manufacturing production line.
Yeah, it's like basically your own little production line, and you can move the modules around based on what type of project you're working on, and then break them apart and transport them elsewhere once you're
Yeah.
done.
And that's the modular side of the shipping container. You can stack them, you can line them up.
Correct.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, how much money does one of these millibots start at? I'm guessing it's not the sort of money that a makerspace could pull together, but is it like tens of thousands of dollars? Is it hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Sure. So our machines right now, and we're in a small production side of it at the moment. We are in talks with some major companies to, hopefully allow us to scale up our production. But currently, our prices start at 150,000 US, and we do have a machine. It's legendary at the moment. It's the $1 million milli. So it only makes sense, man.
Yeah, it
So,
absolutely makes sense. And you know what? I don't think that is too out of the range for a company who is spending a lot of money on sending out designs for prototyping and, small runs. So, $150,000 sounds like a lot, but if your product is in the thousands when it's sold, you don't have to sell many of them to make your return on investment, do you?
absolutely, that's the beauty of it all.
When we're
And
talking automotive or we're talking, real high tech or aerospace, $1,000 times 150, that's not a lot.
yeah, correct. Yeah, and we want to empower people to eventually, own millibots. Own your own personal factory, make your own products,
Yeah.
sell them online. Create a small business.
Especially when you can
These are the.
change the tool heads out. It just means that, you just have to plan out your process, don't you?
Yes, yeah, and you know what? As tools become available, our philosophy with Millibot is you will be able to upgrade and modify your machine. It's like upgrading your computer, your desktop computer. You're able to swap components out, get the latest software updates. There will be all types of features, and that's the beauty of, the time that we live right now with all this technology, all the integration, all the connectivity, by combining all that into a tried and true shipping container manufacturing system, this tool, I hope, will be around and in every city in the next decade.
Yeah, that it sounds awesome, and we definitely would like to have you back on. Would you be going to any of the maker fairs or like the Midwest RepRap Festival or anything like that next year?
Yeah, we need to get a few more. We need to get a trailer on the Millie, and one of our goals, Chris, is to take the Millie on tour around the country. Yeah. We'd love to just drive it across the country and document the entire experience. And stop at locations, make parts, make some products, and then just go to the next location, and just have a lot of fun with it. Make a lot of cool stuff. Get some really good images, some nice video, talk to a lot of people.
Yeah.
That we're all about that.
That's awesome. Well, hopefully I'll be able to meet you in person, meet the Millebot in person, and give you a high five, because I'm really enjoying watching your Instagram. It'll be really cool to see it close up.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I would love to have you down. So just let me know. Orlando, Florida is, as we're based out of. So that's where Disney World. If you have an interest in beaches and mouses
and Star Wars,
come down. Yeah, Star Wars, Avatar.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you very much for your time, Andy. We've had you on for looks like about 25 minutes. So I'd love to have you back on again, because I think I could talk about this with you all day. Anything you want to mention? Where could we find out more about you?
More about me. Let's see. I do have a personal blog. Aside from Millebot G6 products, which is the camera stabilizer, I have a small portfolio of other types of companies as well too. Mostly, all technology based. You can learn more about me at andytranfl.com. Or check me out on my Instagram at Modern Inventor.
Cool.
Or on LinkedIn. Yeah, just look me up, Andy Tran.
Yeah, and your Instagram is awesome, because I see you getting up at crazy hours every morning and hustling while I'm sat in bed 4 hours late.
Oh man, yeah. It really takes a team of people to help hold you accountable. But once you find that team of people, I mean, waking up at 5 it's great. You get so many little things done in the morning. It's just incredible.
I struggle to get up at 8.
Well, if you need a partner, just let me know.
Give me a wake-up call. Well, thank you again for coming on, and I do want to get you back. Thank you, everybody else, for listening. And as always, please give us a like, give us a review, subscribe, share with your friends, and most of all, listen out next time. Thank you again, Andy. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Chris. Talk to you soon.